Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf Hashvo. We're learning Siman Kuf Mem, Dinei Hefsek Beverchas Hatorah. The laws of an interruption in Berchas Hatorah. Hakorei ba'Torah v'nishtatek. One who reads the Torah and then he became mute. Ha'omed yascha b'makom she'eschal harishayin. Then the one who takes his place begins where the first one began. Not where he's up to. He has to start again. Vivarich b'tchilu v'seif. He makes a bracha in the beginning and the end. Oleh Rambam, according to the Rambam, lo yivarich b'tchila. He does not make a bracha to begin with, in the beginning. Haga v'afilu b'zman hazeh sheshliach tzibur korei dina hachi. Even nowadays, that a Bal Korei reads, this is the halacha. So what's the story? What is the situation over here? Let's see the Mishnah Berura. Hakorei b'Torah. So someone was reading the Torah and they became a mute. And then the Mishnah Berura says, "V'kol shkenim nishtatek tekef la'achar bracha kodem shehischal likros." Especially, all the more so, if they became a mute right after the bracha before they began to read, the second guy's bracha will not work. Again, we're talking here where someone made a bracha, and after they made a bracha, they started reading, and then they became a mute. So the next guy who gets up makes a bracha. He has to start all the way from the beginning, meaning from the beginning of where the first one began his aliyah, and make a new bracha. Let's see the Mishnah Berura. Mimakam sheeschal rishon ratzalaymar aval yaschal mimakam shepasak harishon vivarach lefnei malachreim. He should not begin from where the first one left off and make a bracha before and after. Shem kein yu oisam hapsukim shekar rishon nisbarach lefnei malachreim. Because then the psukim that the first guy read will have a bracha before but not a bracha after. So the case is like this: a guy got an aliyah, he made a bracha, and he read 7 psukim of the Parsha. Then he became a mute. So the next guy, when he takes his place, he starts all the way from the beginning. Why? The first psukim read will not count. Why? They had a bracha before. Oh no, yeah, but they didn't have a bracha after. So you'll say, okay, let the next guy just get up and make a bracha after. No, each person has to have a bracha before and after. Certainly, if the next guy is going to begin where the first guy left off and then make a bracha afterward alone, that's not going to be good. Why? Because then the first psukim will have a bracha before and not after. V'achreinim, and the latter psukim, la'achreim v'leilofneim, will have a bracha after and not before. L'kach maschel mimakam sheeschal harishayin. Therefore, he begins from the place that the first guy began. U'mavarch lefneim ul'achreim. So basically, those psukim will not count at all. Why? Because the guy became a mute before he was able to close the deal by making a bracha la'achareim.
What's the incisive of the bracha la'achareim? Like the purpose, like it seems like you're not yotze, kriya.
The psukim have to have a bracha. If they don't have a bracha, then they're...
What does that mean? You learn, I'm learning Torah, I can't, there's no mitzvah, it's just Kerias Hatorah.
The takana of Kerias Hatorah requires a bracha.
Before and after. Vivarech
batchila. You make a bracha in the beginning. V'lo yuchal lismeicha bracha rishana sheberach hanashtatek. Why does the next guy have to make a bracha? Why can't he rely on the bracha rishana that the guy who became a mute made? Why? Shahamevarich b'Torah einay mevarich lahoitzi acherim beverchasai. One who makes a bracha in the Torah is not mechaven to be moitzi anyone else in the bracha. The Dirshu says from here, it's mashma that the Oleh la Torah is not moitzi the tzibur with his brachas. The Be'er Halacha also mentions this in one Siman later, Kuf Mem Aleph, that legabe the shoymim, they were never masakin a bracha b'kriyas Hatorah. In other words, who is the takana for? right? Is a takana for the mavarich? Is a takana for the tzibur? Is the mavarich moitzi the tzibur? No. The takana is only for the Oleh. But the Rosh says the takana is for the whole tzibur. It's interesting because in Siman Reish Pei Daled, Shulchan Aruch says that legabe mea brachos b'yoim, he says you should be mechavein in the brachos of the koirim and the brachos of the mafter and to say amen, and it will be considered to be mashlim the mea brachos. Why? The Mishnah Berura says by saying amen, it's ki'ilu you said it yourself. So I'm not sure that is that in any way contrary to what we're saying here. The takana is for the mavarich. The mavarich is not moitzi anybody. He's not mechavein for anybody. But if an oine answers amen, so what he's doing is he's affirming what was said. His affirmation of what was said is tantamount to a bracha. Legabe mea brachas. So I wouldn't agree with the Dirshu's assessment that what the Mishnah Berura says in Siman Reish Pei Daled is contrary to what he's saying over here. It's not contrary at all. The takana was enacted for the mavarech. It's not enacted for the tzibur. By affirming it, you are accredited with the bracha legabe the halachas of mea brachas b'chol yom. Okay. Ela kol echad v'echad min hakruim mavarech la'atzmai. Each Oleh makes the bracha themselves. V'ayim b'achronim shekasu d'chshechoyzer mavarech enoi choyzer la'amiras baruchu. When the guy became a mute, and now we have to call up someone else, and now we have to begin from where the first guy began, not where the first guy left off. Even though the new Oleh is going to say the brachas again, he's not going to say baruchu. Ki im ha-bracha bovad shu ikar brachas Hatorah. He's just going to say the bracha alone. According to the Rambam, you do not make a bracha in the beginning. What does the Rambam hold? Oleh the samech ha-berchas harishain. V'kasu ha-achroinim the ikar kedea harishayna. The Mishnah Berura over the last couple of pages is using the following word very often that we did not have before in Sefer Mishnah Berura. Achroinim. And he doesn't tell you who it is. Now, we know there were different editors of the Mishnah Berura. Apparently this editor was okay with the expression achroinim. Okay. Now, there might be a difference between the first shita, which by the way is the Rif and the Rosh, who say that the new guy has to make the first bracha again, and the Rambam who says he doesn't, in terms of is the mavarech moitzi others or mechavein for others. Says the Rama, even nowadays that the shliach tzibur is koirei, this is still the halacha. Meaning, he would have to make the bracha again. What does the Rama mean that even nowadays that the shliach tzibur is koirei, he would have to make the bracha again? We would still say, hatam demasha shliach tzibur koirei. The reason is that which the shliach tzibur is koirei, ki'ilu koirei hu dainin anlei. It's as if the person themselves is reading it, and therefore a new bracha is required. The Dirshu explains, therefore, if the Oleh is nishtatek, if the Oleh becomes a mute, the second Oleh has to make a new bracha beginning and end. Meaning, the case is, you have a Bal Koirei, and the Oleh became a mute. So you'll ask, why does the next guy have to start again? The Shliach Tzibur didn't become a mute, the Oleh became a mute. No, the answer is, it's like the Oleh was reading it, and that Oleh's reading doesn't count because he doesn't have a bracha la'achrav. What if the Bal Koirei became a mute, and another chazan took his place? The Kaf HaChaim says, no, we don't have to start again. Okay. The Mishnah Berura continues. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sif Beis. Okay, one more Sif. Ha'oimed likros v'taro berach bracha shel fanei v'kar mixas psukim upasak V'diber divrei Torah ay divrei chayil lo have a hefsik ve'in tzarich lachzor levarich. A guy who got up to read, he made a bracha asher ba'achar ba'nu mikol ha'amim, and he even read a few psukim, ki seitzei la'melchama lo yevecha, and then he said, did you hear the Archaim HaKadosh on these psukim? Ki seitzei la'melchama is talking about the war against the Yetzer Hara. Yarach yamim is chodesh elul, and it's saying v'yashvu b'veisecha, you have to go to the Beis Medrash. You heard that? You know about the Archaim HaKadosh? And he says this in the middle of the laning. Or divrei chayil, he starts to talk about different kinds of transportation. Do you actually need a driver to take you from one place to another, or could you take a waymo? They're different. And somebody starts speaking about divrei chayil. It's not a hefsik, and you don't have to go back and make a bracha. Says the Mishna, bakar psukim, mixas psukim, vein chiluk, vein shikar pasuk echad, kam psukim. Doesn't matter if you read one or many psukim. Aval beloy kara adayin klal. But if you didn't start laning, so now the bracha had nothing to be chalan. Im hifsik afilu b'divrei Torah. If you're mafsik, even for a dvar Torah, kivan shehu shaloi me'inyan kriya, since it's not relevant to the kriya, tzarich lachzor levarich, you would have to make another bracha, which implies that if the dvar Torah is relevant to the kriya, maybe you wouldn't. Now, what if you talked between the end of the kriya and the bracha achroina, the Shatzion brings later in Siman Tafrei Sadi Beis, regarding someone who spoke by Megillas Esther at the end, between the end of the Megillah and the bracha, it's a question whether the bracha will work. What about Kol Hana'arim? Are you allowed to sing Hamalach Hagoyel before the bracha Achroina? The Mishnah says yes. Yes, you could. The Bikurei Yaakov says, since it's a pasuk in the Torah, even though you're saying it Baal Peh, it's not a hefsek. But that's masha if you're mafsik b'shar divrei Torah, that would not be the din. What about chazak? Is chazak a hefsek? The Ktsois HaShulchan says, no, you should not say it. It's a hefsek. Aside from the fact that the Oleh himself never says chazak. If you get the aliyah of chazak, you don't say chazak. Why? Because the bracha of chazak is a bracha to the Oleh. Many people think that chazak is a bracha, they're happy we finished the sefer. No, it's a bracha to the one who gets the aliyah. Okay.
Why does the Balkari say chazak? If the Balkari is just in place of the Oleh, why would Balkari say chazak? He's also benching the Oleh?
Yeah, the Baal Koirei is benching the Oleh, because really it's like the Oleh was Koirei. So he's
if the Oleh was Koirei, he wouldn't say it.
If the Oleh was Koirei, he couldn't say it. Yeah. What would be if the Oleh is Koirei? He's not allowed to say it. He's not allowed to say it. Yeah. If the Oleh is Koirei, he's not allowed to say it. It's a machlokes. The Rabbi Yosef says not. Rabbi Chaim, the Stipler said the minhag would be to say it. But fundamentally, no. If the Oleh is Koirei, you wouldn't say it. Now the Mishnah says that if you're mafsik, before you began reading any psukim, even b'divrei Torah, kivan shu shloim inyan akriyat tzarich lachzor levarich va'afilu sach mila achas, even one word, v'chemay b'chol berchas hamitzvahs, like all brachos of mitzvahs, ayanen the tzarich lachzor levarich im hifsik teikav achar bracha, that you'd have to go back and make another bracha if you were mafsik after the bracha, afim yodea bever shlo yisiach daitai. Even if you know for sure that your mind was not diverted. The kivan shlei hischal adayin mitzvah, since you didn't begin the mitzvah yet, ein la acher kacha ma'alacha, has nothing to devolve upon. V'im sach l'tzarech hakriya, if you spoke for the sake of the kriya, ein tzarech lachzor levarich. So in other words, if you say over the Archaim HaKadosh on the words ki seitzei la melchama, maybe that's not a hefsek. But that's still aser. There's no difference between Hebrew and any other language. Lo have a hefsek. It's not a hefsek. So here it's talking about, you said the bracha before, you read a few psukim, and then you started shmuzing. It's not a hefsek that you don't have to make another bracha when you continue reading. The first bracha was not nisbata. Even if you were meisiach das, you diverted your attention from reading further, it's not a hefsek. V'shuv nimlach v'kari la'alan ein tzarich lachzor levarich. V'yesh mi shekasa b'inyan acher. There are those who disagree. There are those who say it is a hefsek. If you started talking in the middle of the kriya, it is a hefsek. Who is that? Who's the yeshmi? The yeshmi sha'omer is the shari from the Chaim Magin Giborim. I'm sorry, the first shita who says it's not a hefsek, even if you're a meisiach das. I mean, now we're talking about, the mechaber says, so everybody agrees that if you talked, you don't have to make another bracha. That's presuming you were not meisiach das. What if you were meisiach das? Ein tzarich lachzor levarich. That's the shari from the Chaim Magin Giborim. The yeshmi shekasav was the oilas tamid is mesupik, and Rabbi Kiva Eger brings the rikash. It's masha that he holds behepach, but safek brachas lahakel. Okay. The best thing is that if you're making a bracha on the Torah, you should be mechavein, that even if you divert your attention and you talk, you want the bracha to still be effective. Nevertheless, it is asr to be mafsik in the middle of the kriya, af b'loy hesach hadas klal, even not meisiach das. And this brings us to a very interesting question. Let's say the Baal Korei comes over, the Gabbai comes over to you towards the end of the previous aliyah. Well, what's your name? What's your name? What should you tell him? You should tell him nothing. What you really should tell him is that he should step down and they should get a different Gabbai. But you're not allowed to answer in the middle of the Kerias Hatorah what your name is. That's why they have Ben Gavra LeGavra. You can't talk. Or sometimes you have a guy who likes to collect tzedakah. The only thing is, Hayetzahara meisisai, that every single person he encounters during Chazar, now he shouldn't be collecting during Chazar Sashatz. Mishna Berura says you shouldn't collect tzedakah during Chazar Sashatz. But for sure, he should not be having a conversation with each person he goes to collect tzedakah from. Otherwise, yatsa scharai behefsedai.
Recording stopped.
Okay.
This comes